As we could see, we still have technical challenges in this room, but it's so important to be in this room. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Prime Minister, it is always a pleasure to see you here, and this is a particular day for all of us. President Johnson Sirleaf, President Sata, Vice President of Botswana. I know that we will have a few more heads of state coming to join us. It is my pleasure to be next to Madame Zuma, Madame Dlamini Zuma. Abdul Gamal Nasser was a colonel in the Egyptian army at the age of 35 and became president at the age of 38. Modibo Keita, at the age of 28, founded the L'Œil de Kenedougou, a magazine critic that led to his imprisonment for 3 weeks in 1946 at Prison de la Santé in Paris. Frantz Fanon, at the age of 27, wrote his first book, Black Skin, White Masks, an analysis of the negative psychological effects of colonial subjugation upon black people. Nelson Mandela was founding member of the African National Congress Youth League at the age of 26 and elected national president of the League 5 years later. And my own, Amilcar Cabral, at age 26, had founded several student movements dedicated to opposing the rule of Portugal and promoting the cause of liberation of Portuguese colonies in Africa. When he died at the age of 46, he had achieved more than many people do in 3 lifetimes. Indeed, when Patrice Lumumba was assassinated at the age of only 37, he was already Prime Minister of Congo, having previously led a long struggle to liberate his beloved nation. At their time, these actors were a source of inspiration, not only for Africans. Their ideals and contributions continue to be a source of inspiration for us today. They were great mobilizers, builders, purveyors and believers in the ideals of Pan-Africanism. By comparison, our youth today are still struggling to make their mark and to have their voices heard in all spheres of governance and influence. Indeed, the current median age of African leaders is 3 times the median age of the African population. We can nevertheless also safely assert that Africa's youth have made an impact on the democratic evolution of the continent. I'm not talking only about their role in the so-called Arab Spring, which, by the way, is a misnomer. Spring is not applicable to Africa, and it was not only North Africa that the youth played a role in stopping undemocratic practices at the national level. Youth were also central to resisting a sit-tight president in Niger and to the general mobilization that resulted in the changes that brought us here, President Macky Sall. Welcome. Despite these seemingly great achievements, it is sad to note that even though young Africans are more literate than their parents, they are more unemployed, with current education levels lagging behind that of China and India. The key message, however, is that the energy of the Africa's youth and their frustration with current conditions has to be channeled to the right policies. This goes without saying. Africa's youth are its future, and the most important contributions that can be made are from them for structural transformation. Going forward, Africa, already the youngest continent, will also have the largest labor force in the world. Indeed, by 2050, over a quarter of the world's labor force will be African. Let me further stress this point. 2012 marked the 300th anniversary of the birth of Jean-Jacques Rousseau, considered one of the most original philosophers of enlightenment. His seminal work on the social contract gives us a starting place as he considers the possibility of balancing the relationship between man and nature. Rousseau also looked at creating a society based on the principles of equality, freedom, and participatory processes. Indeed, the idea of a social contract, which he originally postulated from the theory of family solidarity and togetherness, is thought of by many as the core constituent of sustainable development. This concept of sustainable development has now become the last incarnation of the continuous struggle to balance the relationship between humans and nature. The world has reached a point where we need an intergenerational social contract that not only seeks to continue the Sustainable Development Agenda, but also looks at it in a new dimension of a demographic imbalance, a young Africa versus an aging world. This is why a debate on youth in Africa is so relevant. This issue is not only critical to Africa, but to the world's continuous development as a whole. Given this background, our collective challenge is how to use Africa's youth potential to build a prosperous and peaceful continent. Needless to say, of course, that the older generations did not wait for space to be created for them, so this one is not going to wait either. Don't tell them there are no jobs. This example of Asia's growth tells us otherwise. Don't tell them they cannot do science. India's growth shows that a developing country can train its youth to build a strong science and engineering base. Don't tell them not to dream. The growth of IT innovations in Africa shows our capabilities in face of hardship. Don't tell them not to grow. The business acumen of young entrepreneurs like Ashish Thakkar, Africa's youngest billionaire, shows that it is possible. Don't tell them not to ask questions. Indeed, that is the only way they can provide the answers we need for the next 50 years. We want a youth that are ambitious, innovative, courageous, righting wrongs, and speaks truth to power. We want a youth that continues the struggle for total liberation of Africa, started by our forefathers and foremothers, by fighting for equality, freedom, and justice. Ladies and gentlemen, in the past, Africa's 52 million Facebook users, most of whom are youth, show clearly that they are up to date and well equipped to function effectively as part of the information and communications revolution. I have also very recently developed a social media presence, and I'm getting used to the lingo such as posting, liking, friending on my Facebook. I especially like the word lol, which means laugh out loud. Indeed, while I listen and I enjoy the work of Angelique Kidjo, Salif Keita, Hugh Mazekela, I do appreciate that for you, Peace Square, Sauti Sol have more resonance. I assure you, however, that those of us of older generations can also gyrate to the music generated by young Africans. After all, we all have rhythm. Thank you.